Hey guys, just getting situated here. Just trying to get my iPad up so I can follow myself. Just give me 1 second. I'm working on pouring a container for these coasters. Okay. All right, so I got my iPad up. Awesome. Okay. So, yesterday on my TikTok live, I poured this set of coasters. They're all the same. I don't need to show them all to you. But these were done with alcohol ink, a little bit of silver leaf, and I'm going to pour some backs on these after I pour the holder. Just want to show you kind of the color scheme I'm working with. So today I am pouring the holder for them. So this has a lid. I don't know, it goes this way. So I'm going to pour that to kind of match those as best as I can. I am using, for my resin, today I'm using the Unicone. This is their crystal resin. It's a 1-to-1. This has kind of become my new favorite resin. It won my UV challenge, leaving it outside in direct sunlight. There's a video earlier on my channel, if you haven't seen it, where I compare 7 different resins, leaving them outside for a month. And that resin, the Unicone, was the winner. I actually, right before this, I just filmed a follow-up to that because it's been 4 months. And those results are super interesting. So I will have that video up on the channel sometime this week. So if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe and click the notifications so you get an alert. All right, so today using the Unicone resin, and these are the inks I'm using. This is the Pixis brand, and I wanted to do some fall colors, so I chose berry, cranberry, sunflower, and mum. I did a bunch of color swatching on TikTok yesterday too, and these were the 4 that I landed on. And then, like I said, these were the results of this pour. So I'm not going to demold these yet though, because I still have to put it back on them. So today I'm pouring the container for the coasters. So I measured this out with water. The container itself takes 10 ounces and the lid takes 4. So I've got 4 ounces mixed up in this cup. I'm gonna do the lid first. I've got the other 10 over on my mixer, mixing away, and I should pour that as soon as I'm done with the lid. Now, one thing I did notice with this mold is that it dips in the middle. There's no support on the inside, so gravity is pulling this down. So what I'm gonna do, oh, and I don't have it right here. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna go grab this box. All right, so I've got these. These are just some ceramic coasters that I'm gonna be pouring on someday. I'm just gonna grab a bunch of them and stack them up. I don't know how many it'll take. Maybe one more. And I'm gonna put these on the inside and use that to hopefully keep that from sagging too much. And it's still gonna sag a little bit because it's not the exact height, but it's much better. All right, so that'll work. And I don't know what I just got on my mold. My baby wipe. Oh, it looks like maybe it was just water. That's weird. I don't know what I set that on. I'll just let that dry. Okay, so I'm gonna pour the lid. Now, I did put some silver leaf around the edges of these. I'm sure you can't see it, but I wanna do some silver leaf on the little handle here, just so it matches a little bit. I would really love to put some around the rim of this, but it's really hard to get it in there, and I'm just not really feeling like that today. So Just gonna put some on this little handle. And you can do this with, I'm using this flaked leaf. You can also use sheets of it. It comes in sheets or also like pre-flaked up in these little jars. Either way, it's a pain to deal with because it's super staticky, but it leaves just a super cool effect. So I'm not gonna cover it perfectly because I wasn't able to really do the edges of the coasters perfectly. So I'm just trying to kind of get it on mostly around this little bit. And then I did have some that kind of flaked onto the coaster on the molds, the bottoms of the molds. So I'm just gonna try and replicate that a little, just scatter some of this around. Lid back on, there we go. All right, and then I'm just gonna press it down because I don't want it to float. I want it to stay attached to the mold. All right, let me just wipe up this loose stuff because this is just gonna fly everywhere when I use my heat gun. All right, so I have my 4 ounces mixed up. Just double checking to make sure it's those little strings in there. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna pour this into the lid. I measured these molds yesterday with water, and I think resin is actually a little heavier than water. So it might be pushing this mold down a little. It might not be quite enough with the 4. We'll see. So how is everyone doing today? It was a beautiful sunny day here. I'm just outside of Chicago. So it's a little on the chilly side, not bad. It's sweatshirt weather for those of us used to this climate. For people from Florida, this might not be sweatshirt weather. I'm just pushing this up to the edges. So if you're new to my channel, I do resin and concrete work. Most of my tutorials, maybe even all of them so far, have just been resin. I love working with concrete, but it's not as interesting. You can't really get any of those fun effects. It doesn't really, it's not super interesting to watch, I don't think. Although if you want me to put some of my concrete stuff on the channel, please leave me a note in the comments. I'm just going around making sure that resin is all the way to the edges. A little hair. All right, so I'm gonna let this sit and kind of thicken up a little bit while I finish mixing the resin for the actual body of the piece. Let me grab these off my mixer. I don't know what I would do without my mixer. It's super handy. All right. So even though I mix on a mixer, I always still give it another stir and make sure I scrape the sides and the bottom because the mixer cannot do that. Or if it can, I haven't figured out how. I'm just gonna check it in the light. Make sure it's totally mixed. All right, grab my other cup. So this is the Unicone crystal resin. So this resin is definitely on the thinner side. I've been using Naked Fusion for years, but it's thick. I mean, it's not super thick, but it's thicker than some. So I wanted to try and find a thinner resin that I could use for more, like those really detailed molds that have all kinds of little, you know, little corners and little places for air bubbles to hide. So I wanted to try and find something that would get in there a little bit better. So that's when I started testing out different resins and landed on this one, which I really like. I'm still getting to know it though. Every resin is different and they all have their quirks. This one I like, but it's really thin. I don't know if you can see that. It's definitely more watery than Naked Fusion. So I'm still getting used to how to use it to make effects like these, the Petri, which I can do these in my sleep with Naked Fusion because I know exactly how to use it and, you know, all of its little idiosyncrasies. But this new resin I'm still getting used to. All right, so I just want to tuck this plastic in, make sure this is still level. If you're just tuning in, this mold tends to sag in the center because there's no supports in the middle, and I stuffed it with some coasters, but they're in bubble wrap and the bubble wrap is trying to escape. All right, let me just do a better job of tucking all this in. All right, there we go. Okay, so this mold said, I measured it out with some water. It said it came to 10 ounces. This guy is super full. All right, so I've got 5 ounces in each cup here. And we'll see. Hopefully this is enough. So I'm just going to pour it in the center and let it kind of spill over. Hopefully that will minimize any bubbles. I'm seeing all kinds of little hairs. They're invisible until the resin touches them. Oh well. I think you have your molds cleaned off and then it turns out you don't. All right, cup number 2. Oh, here it comes. I don't want to overflow it. I think it's domed. Oh man, I'm looking from the side. All right, so that is domed, and it looks like I still have like an ounce left. So that sagging in the middle, when I measured it out yesterday, I didn't have anything under the center and it was sagged, and that took up a whole extra ounce. In fact, I need to take some out because I don't think I'm gonna be able to drop the ink in here. So when you're doing an alcohol ink or Petri, it doesn't work as good if you have a dome. If your resin is domed, you want it just below the surface of your mold. All right, I think that's good. Okay, so I can definitely see bubbles down in there. Hopefully they'll rise up. I'm just gonna give it some time. Let the bubbles rise up. I wanna let the resin thicken a little bit too before I drop the ink in. Just trying to scrape any of these bubbles off the sides. Can't go in too far though, because I'll probably overflow it. All right, so I'm just gonna let this sit for maybe 10 minutes so that the bubbles have a chance to rise up to the top, and then hopefully the resin will thicken up a little bit more too. All right, so I'm looking at this guy. Looks like it could use a smidge more resin actually. It's not all the way to the edges. So this piece has supports under it, but it's in the shape of like a plus sign. So where it has the supports, it's higher, and then in between the supports, it's kind of sagged a little bit. So I don't think this is going to be a perfectly flat piece, which I'm a little disappointed in. If there's anything I can put under to kind of lift these four sides up. Trying to think what I can stuff under there. Maybe some paper towel if I tear off. I don't know, let's see. This is the fun part when you use a mold for the first time. You find all the little things about it. It's hard to tell if that's level or not with the rest of it. Now I feel like these guys are higher than the supports. Oh man. And that seems to work. Let me try that. This is fascinating, isn't it? So frustrating when a mold sags like this. Oh, All right, one more side. Alright, so now I can see it's higher where I put the paper towels. This side seems pretty level. Just over here. Alright, I think that's about level. So I'm going to put a link to these molds in the description after I'm done, but just a couple notes. They both sag. So this is the first time I'm using them, but the lid is sagging in between the supports. There's like an X here, and where there's no supports, it's sagging. And then this sags in the center, as there's no support in the center. So hopefully everything's level now. All right, so time to drop the ink. So these are the same 4 inks I used yesterday when I poured these coasters. So these are Pixis colors. So I have berry, cranberry, mum, and sunflower. So I'm going for kind of like a fall look. So these colors, this is the first time I used them, was yesterday. They spread really nicely. They are a bit on the transparent side, and I know, yes, alcohol inks are transparent, duh. But I've used quite a few inks, and these ones are, I think, more transparent than what I'm used to. I don't know if you can see, but I can see straight through to the bottom like it's water. I'm going to be filming an alcohol ink test in the coming weeks. I've purchased 4 different brands of alcohol inks. They're on the way. I don't have them all yet. But I'm going to do some testing with the UV fastness in a couple different resins that I have, just to see you know, how they handle being out in the sunlight, if it depends on the resin, because I know some resins have better UV inhibitors than others. You know, if the colors make a difference. There's some resins where, like especially the purple for some reason, purples and pinks and blues will fade much more quickly than the other colors. So I'm going to do some testing, and I will have that video up on my channel. But of course I have to create the pieces and then let them sit outside for 30 days. So it's probably I'm going to guess it's going to be mid to late January before I actually get the video up. But if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notifications bell, and then you will get an alert when I post new content, and then that way you won't miss that video. I think that's going to be a pretty cool test. I'm always worried about alcohol inks fading. That's why I don't use them that often. The only time I use them is when I'm doing these Petri designs, because I don't want my work to fade. I mean, that's a lot of work. And I sell it to customers, and I know if I was a customer and something I bought faded away, I'd be pretty disappointed. So I tend not to use alcohol ink as much as some other people do. And I know it's absolutely beautiful if you are doing like the Petri designs. They're stunning. I just don't trust I just don't trust the colors to stay. Just trying to fill in some of these areas where it's pulling away from the edges. So I'm going to be doing some classes coming up. Starting in January, the first Thursday of every month, I'm going to be doing live pouring classes where you can pour with me. And I have a different project each month. So if you head on over to the website, resincoaching.com, you can see all the classes I have on the schedule. I've got them up through April, and I'll be adding more. I'm trying to get like 4 to 6 months ahead to give everybody time to purchase their supplies and get their calendars blocked off so that we can pour resin together. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm still working on the website, but it's getting there. resincoaching.com. All right, I'm going to do one more round here, and I'll move on to the bowl. Actually, I'm going to let this kind of do its thing for a minute. I'm going to come on over here. All right, so one thing I always want to warn people, do not torch resin if you have alcohol ink sitting on the top of it. I have lit projects on fire. So do all your torching beforehand. Make sure your bubbles are out before you put your inks in. You can use a heat gun, but then that's going to move your design around too, which you may not want. And if you heat up the resin, then your colors are going to drop, or your white especially is going to drop, and you're going to end up with blobbies. Now, I don't know, I might end up with blobbies anyways because this is a thinner resin than I'm used to. This is actually the first time I'm using this resin for Petri. I'm kind of testing it out. I want to see what it's going to do. I usually use my Naked Fusion when I do Petri stuff because it's thicker and I know how to use it. I've been using it for so long. I know exactly how long to wait. I'm just waiting for a few more of these bubbles to make their way to the top. I'm still learning how to use this resin. That's the thing, like every resin's different. They all have their own little quirks. This is the Unicone Unicone crystal resin. 1-to-1. This is a newish resin for me. I've been using it a few months. But I really like it. It's thinner. To me, it has absolutely no odor at all. I know everybody smells things differently, and you might think it's a strong odor, but I don't smell anything, which I really like. It's VOC free. I only use VOC free resin. So yeah, so far I'm really liking it. So again, I'm just trying to fill in some of these areas where it's pulling away. If you want to try the Unicone resin, you can go to their website. It's unicone-art.com. And you can use discount code TIFTENART, TIFTENART, for a 10% discount on that resin if you want to give it a try. And they have smaller sizes too. You don't have to buy the big, gallon bottles. Okay. I think that's just about all the bubbles I'm going to get out of there. All right, so now I'm going to drop the colors in this one. And I'm going to focus more on the edge because I want the colors to sink down. So I'm hoping, I know they're going to spread, but I'm hoping they also drop down into there. order to do this in. I guess I could have put the yellow by the pink because it would have made orange, right? All right, so let me get the lid back on this, shake this back up. This Blanco Blanco, if you use this, you have to make sure you get the ball loose. You hear it? You have to shake it until the ball comes loose. Otherwise, what's going to happen over time is all your pigment's going to end up sticking to the bottom. And then as you use it, you're going to get less and less. It's just going to work differently as you get deeper and deeper into the bottle. So for consistency, always shake it really good. I don't know if you can see, but these inks are pulling into the middle pretty severely. This burgundy over here is almost completely gone. I don't want to just drop the white where there's no color. So I'm real curious to see how these inks, you know, how this all performs in this resin. So I've never made any Petri stuff with this resin, but since the resin is a lot thinner than the Naked Fusion that I'm used to, I kind of suspect there's going to be a lot of blobs on the bottom. But we'll see. I don't know why I can't talk and do this at the same time. I'm just going to give that a second, let it kind of do its thing before I add any more. I don't know, should I put some in the middle? It looks kind of cool. Let me zoom in so you can see what's going on in the middle there. Oop. Almost knocked the tripod over. That's looking weird. All those little fingers looks like flame. I'm sure it's not going to stay like that because resin just moves around so much, but super interesting. And let's look at this guy. So this one, or is it still moving? Looks like it's not really moving too much anymore, so. I feel like my tripod's about to fall over. Okay. All right, let's see. I don't know. I feel like I need to do some more. I'm trying to look at it from the side to see if I can see anything happening. It's kind of hard, obviously, because the mold is not clear. I do see color, maybe like a ½ inch down, but I can't tell if that's reflections or actual color sinking. So I'm gonna do one more round. Just want to make sure I get that in there. Make sure I have enough color in here. So then after I get this done, I'm gonna pour the backs on these coasters that I did yesterday. I poured those live yesterday on my TikTok. So that was fun. I think those are going to turn out pretty good. They're probably going to have a lot of blobbies because I use this same resin. And I just don't think I think you have to wait a lot longer with this resin before you drop your colors. But this was my first time using it, so this is kind of an experiment. I'm treating it the way I treat my Naked Fusion because I just want to see the differences. But I can almost guarantee you that it's going to be quite blobby. Get the lid back on that guy. All right. Okay, so I don't think I can move these without spilling anything. Let me just clean this up a little bit, and then I'm gonna get my resin mixing for the backs of those. What do you guys think? What color should I put on the back of these? I was thinking black, but then I was thinking this is like a fall design. If you can see through there. So then I thought maybe like a bronze, maybe pink. I don't know. I'm kind of, what do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think I should back those with. Well, I'm getting a little bit of this stuff cleaned up so I can mix up my resin for that. I'll bring over some color samples. See what we got here. Okay, so I got it's my eye candy. This is their sample set, the blacks and browns. So this is a black that I was thinking of using. It's just mix all black. It's just a straight up black, no shimmer. Then I've got these micas. So now there's no such thing as like a solid black mica. They all have a shimmer in them. So they all have like a tiny bit of like a gray overtone to them just because that shimmer. But maybe a brown. I don't know. These are all really dark brown. This one looks like the darkest one to me. This is Caramitu. I don't know how to pronounce that. So maybe this brown. Brown or black? Which one? Well, I think I'm going to do the brown. All right, let me move. So I'm not going to move this stuff. I wish I could, but I don't want to worry about spilling it. So I'm going to shift my camera. I'm going to go over here. See, where can I put these? I just want to see first where I can work. I'm not out of view. All right, this guy can go here. All right, so I can do that, and then you can still see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm just going to move these while I mix up my resin. So I'm going to do 4 more ounces. I've got 1 ounce in this cup, so I'm just going to mix up 3 more. Give me a paper towel. I know this is the fun part of resin, right? Watching someone mix. Yesterday it was so cold in my studio here when I was pouring my resin out. It was like trying to pour honey, cold honey. I try to keep my studio between like 73 and 75. But it is winter now, so at night our heat goes down. We turn the heat down to like 65 at night. So it takes a minute to warm things up during the day. But now it's a nice 73 in here. Nice low humidity too. That's where you want it when you're working with resin. So this, again, this is the Unicone crystal resin. And my favorite thing about it is how fast it mixes up. I never time myself. You know, when I mix resin, I just mix until it's clear. I don't count, you know, if it says, oh, mix it for 3 minutes, I never look at the clock. I mix till it's clear. Because I find that the instructions on the bottle are usually too low. It's usually not enough time. And the more resin you're mixing up in your cup, the longer it takes. So that, you know, 3-minute recommendation might be good if you're mixing up 4 ounces, but if you're mixing up 6 or 8, you're gonna have to mix for longer. So I never look. I don't ever time how long it takes me to mix resin. I just mix it and then I hold it up to the light, and if I see strings in it, I keep mixing. So when I started using this resin, I noticed that it's so much faster to mix up the Naked Fusion. And I don't know if it's because it's thinner. Well, no, probably not, because I do have some other thin resins and they feel like they take just as long as the Naked Fusion to mix. So I don't know, but that's my favorite thing about this resin, is just how easy it is to mix. And it releases bubbles super good. Now, I only have 3 ounces in this cup, so there's definitely gonna be more bubbles. The less resin you're mixing, the more bubbles you're gonna have in it. When I have a really full cup, it's probably the same number of bubbles, just more concentrated in a smaller amount. Always scraping the bottom and the sides. All right, guys, it's already mixed like that. And I never trust it because I'm like, that can't be mixed already. Holding it up to the light, and it is. Amazing. Okay, so do we decide black or brown? I think I'm just gonna go with black. It's my old standby. Put some in here too. This stuff is probably getting a little thick, so I'm going to do this first. Mix this up first. I want to get it poured. Yeah, it's a little bit warm. This is the same resin I used to pour the the bowl and lid, so. Definitely thickening up. I just let it sit for a second, let the bubbles rise up. This mix-all mixes in so nicely. I really like it. So if you're just tuning in, thanks for joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning. All right. Okay, so let me just spread these back out. Okay, so I'm gonna pour this one first. Yeah, that is really thick now. That's probably the thickness I need it to be before I drop the colors in. I just noticed a big hair. All right. Heat is always awesome to thin resin out a little bit, help it move. Although I just scattered hair and silver leaf everywhere. All right, other 3. So I can't tell if anyone is leaving any comments or questions. I have my iPad up and it says live chat, but I can't see if there's any chats. Would somebody mind just leaving a comment and just say hello so I can see if my chat is working? I don't know if anyone left a comment because I don't see anything. I wonder if I don't know, maybe I have my settings wrong. If you guys are leaving comments, I apologize because I'm apparently not seeing them. Get all this out of the cup. I reuse my sticks and eventually they get to where they don't have smooth sides anymore. It's really hard to scrape. So I do sand my sticks off so I can keep reusing them for as long as possible, but after a while they get to where it's just no more. You can't keep sanding them. All right. So there is silver leaf flying everywhere. Okay, so this coaster is really full and this one is not as full. So I'm just gonna try and share the love a little here. This one is really full. I want them to be about the same thickness. Doesn't have to be exact, but I don't want one that's really thick and one that's super thin either. Okay, let's wipe this off. I should have chosen a hobby that's not as messy. All right. Okay, so it looks like these are done for now. I'm gonna zoom you in and take a look at this bowl again. It's still Those little fingers are still there. So I'm hoping, camera off here. I'm hoping that it cures like that. That looks super cool. That's just from the resin doing its thing, moving towards the middle. But boy, that looks so neat. And then here's the lid. It's pretty much stopped moving now. So this is probably what it's gonna look like. This is the underside though. So I will be demolding all of this stuff, and then I'll post the videos on my Instagram and my TikTok, and I'll throw the shorts up here on YouTube too. So if you're not following me on my other channels, go check me out. I have a TikTok under the Poorhouse Resin, Instagram under the Poorhouse Resin, and Tifton Studio. Tifton Studio is my retail where I sell all of my pieces, and the Poorhouse is where I do all of my classes. So go follow, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend.